changes, movements in air like that get converted into movements in voltage. That's the first bit of conversion. Those changes in voltage are then converted via an analog to digital converter. So when we talk about analog, we're not talking about this sound I'm making now. We're talking about sound that's already been electrified. Then it gets digitized, this analog to digital converter, and the enormous range of quality you can get in those things. The better quality, the closer you've got a representation of the changes in voltage. You still need a very good microphone at the front end to transfer the acoustic phenomena into electrical phenomena into digital. Then the digital data gets stored, then it gets retrieved, or it gets manipulated. So you get your numbers, you manipulate them, or you store them. You store them, you manipulate them, then you retrieve them, and start to send the process back in reverse. So the digital data is converted back into voltage changes. There's voltage changes through a digital analog converter. Those voltage changes are then sent to a loudspeaker, and a loudspeaker is the same as a microphone, just working in the other way around. So you can actually make loudspeakers out of microphones, and you can make microphones out of loudspeakers. If you buy one of those little birthday cards that you open up and it plays a tune, that little piezo loudspeaker that's stuck in there is also a microphone. So if you just swap the poles around and plug it into an input rather than plug it into an output, you have a microphone. So too with these, if I turn them up really, really loud and plug them into an input, I might be able to record. Because all this is a sensitive diaphragm that's vibrating based on changes in voltage. So speakers are microphones, microphones are speakers. There's so much stuff to talk to you about. I put this in for you.
Yeah, hey.
Sorry, it's so pixelated. But the sound's alright. Has no bearing. It didn't come from the real world at all. I've only talked so far about stuff that comes from outside, we record it and store it. Now, things can start right inside the machine and go outwards. These rather lovely, simple tones are cheap, predictable, and yet they're being modified and manipulated by a player, and therefore there's this spontaneous improvisation happening with them at the same time. They're made from tiny little waveforms that cost nothing to reproduce. When I say cost nothing, they don't take any CPU cycles to represent. What was I saying? This is the other thing about being a geek. You get lost down in some geek thing, and then you're talking about something creative or artistic. Well, they all merge into one in the digital, which is exciting. So, if you watch this video all the way through, you'd eventually get to the evolution of this scenario thing. I'm sorry to say pixelated, but the soundscapes change, right? There's a more contemporary. This is very familiar to you.
Oh, yes.
It's richer now. Sonically, it's richer, but there's still the same kind of sonic elements there. Ding, 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 things that confirm. Oh, I've done something else. But it's changing. Okay. Here's another thing. We're talking about kind of soundscapes and digital soundscapes. This is a piece of work by an artist called Rob Kennedy, called Happy the Believer. It's made in 2008, and basically stayed up all night playing Grand Theft Auto, trying not to play the game. So he's just walking around the very edges of the game world, trying to avoid trouble on his own.
It's a really boring way to play Grand Theft Auto.
Now that depends on your perspective, I guess. I actually think this is really rather a beautiful piece because it shows you the kind of vastness of the digital system that's been built. Listen carefully to the footsteps. But footsteps are changing all the time. Tiny microscopic variations are being imposed upon a small subset of samples that give this sense of variation and change. So this system has to be able to do that. Then there's the background atmosphere. You can hear it's not just the footsteps. There's also a distant hum and rumble of the city that's also changing very slowly. There's birds that fly by. Every now and again there's an aeroplane that cruises across the distance. All of these things are sitting there waiting to talk to one another, waiting for their moment to speak and then come out. So it's an incredibly complex, incredibly rich environment that's been created. And if you didn't have the sound there, what would it be like? It would be boring. It would be very hard to watch. So that's Rob Kennedy, Happy to Believers. He's based in Glasgow. What else can we do with all this digital stuff? Well, here's a project called Listen to the Deep. I had to grab this off the internet yesterday because I didn't think I'd have an internet connection here. But this is a really quite extraordinary website where there are microphones around in the sea, all around the Mediterranean and some places in the Atlantic, and they're emitting GPS information and sound data. They're listening to the ocean floor, listening for whales, listening for shipping, listening for all sorts of stuff. And you can go to this website and listen to the deep.net/acoustics and listen to some of these emitters out in the middle of the ocean right now. So it's a live stream of what's actually happening in the sea, on the seabed at a particular point. And it tries to break down what's going on. So each one of those little horrible pixel things there is identified as a whale. This is a sperm whale. This is a ship. This is a dolphin, and tries to categorise all of this stuff. So here's a real fascinating sort of information hub, entirely digitised map of the ocean floor, which is quite exciting thing to be able to do. In a digital system, we're able to be here, and to some extent, through sound, be there, because sound has this sort of visceral quality to it, this presence that sort of authenticity about it, or something. Which helps us to imagine what it's like to actually be there, helps us to empathise with that. So we're crossing boundaries, crossing borders, being able to jump from place to place, and sound helps us to really do that, helps us to really go there. Go there further, go there deeper, go there, get closer to it. So sound maps are pretty important. A lovely project called Sound Transit. Anybody heard of this? It's really fun. You pick a start point and an end point, and you can travel on a journey from Finland to Bosnia, or wherever you like via sound. And people around the world have been uploading sound files to this database, the Sound Transit database. It's quality controlled to some extent because it is an art project. So any old grumbly sound recorded on an iPod might not be let in there. They might be looking for slightly better quality audio than that. I haven't heard anything particularly bad anyway. But here you go, you set up your journey, and you can start listening in Finland and go via Australia and then end up in Bosnia. It's kind of cute.
Go by Australia.
Yeah. It's kind of cute, but it's also, again, really quite a special thing to be here and to have some of their at your disposal. One of the things that is sort of instant access you get with digital stuff is that you can hear the difference between a soundscape in Australia and a soundscape in Helsinki. You can compare them directly. British Library has got a UK sound map, which I think you really enjoy having a look at. Huge plots. There's a lot of activity in Glasgow, a little bit less in Edinburgh, quite a bit in Manchester. Surprisingly little in London, really, considering how many people are there. But you get these plots of sound. Really rather interesting bits of recordings, people's personal lives, just on this map. And it's kind of like a documentary of Britain in sound. And as we've already discerned, as we've already decided, or perhaps agreed, or I've told you, you don't agree, but sound is rich. It's full of all this really special information. It's arguably close. It's arguably, what is it? Arguably, it's possibly it's a bit uncanny. And it's a bit disturbing as well because of its power over us. So when you go and listen to these recordings on British Library UK Sound Map, you're being affected by it in a different way to how you would be if there was a photograph or a textual description. It's like some kind of there's some matter in sound itself that I'm finding it hard to put into words, which is good. What else does the digital give us? Well, it gives us this, again, a sort of sense of sociality. One of my students a couple of years ago, called Andrew Spitz, made a project called Tweeter Sound, where you tweet sounds to Twitter. And the sounds are described in basically just a string of numbers, because you've only got a certain number of characters on Twitter that you can use. You tweet a string of numbers. It goes into a piece of software that each person hosts on their computer. And then those numbers get transferred into sound. And the thing he was exploring was this notion of social sound design. How are you feeling today? Well, I'm feeling a bit like, and you tweet that, and then someone downloads it. Oh yeah, he's feeling like that. Well, I'm feeling a bit like this.